To think and become a billionaire, I want to know what they think. There is a book that Warren Buffett, the second richest investor in modern history, has called one of the most important books he has ever read. It is not written by Buffett. It is written by his business partner, the guy standing slightly to his left in every photo for 60 years. The one who, according to Buffett himself, made him a better investor and a better thinker. That guy is Charlie Munger, the long-serving vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. And the book is called Poor Charlie's Almanack. It's quite a lengthy book, but there are a lot of value in getting the word of wisdom from one of the richest men in the world. So I want to break down the lengthy reading and concepts for you in this video, and grab the key concepts for you so you benefit from their wisdom. The book is actually not about investing. It barely talks about stock picking. Instead, it is a collection of 11 speeches Munger gave over several decades, covering psychology, history, physics, biology, academics, etc. Munger's core argument, in one sentence: most people fail not because they are unintelligent, but because they only know how to think using one mental toolbox, from one angle, instead of multidisciplinary thinking that help to look from different angles and perspectives. Today, we are pulling 5 lessons from this book that apply directly to your life in 2026, whether or not you ever plan to buy a single share of stock. Let's go. Munger's single biggest idea is what he called a latticework of mental models. Let me put that in plain English. Instead of looking at the world through just one lens, economics, psychology, finance, or whatever your college major happened to be, you should build a collection of powerful ideas from different disciplines. Why? Because the real world doesn't operate in neat academic categories. If you're deciding whether to take a job, wondering whether to trust a financial opportunity a friend told you about, or trying to figure out whether a scary news headline is actually as alarming as it sounds, looking at the situation from just one perspective can lead you to the wrong conclusion. Instead, use multiple mental models. Think about the best ideas you've learned from economics, psychology, history, statistics, business, and the people around you. Then combine those perspectives to see the situation more clearly and make a better decision. That was Munger's point. The more useful mental models you have, the more accurately you can understand the world. Lesson 2 is Munger's favorite mental trick, and it might be the single most useful idea in the entire book: invert the problem. Here is what that means. Instead of asking, how do I succeed at this, ask, how would I guarantee failure at this? Then systematically avoid every single thing on that list. This sounds almost too simple to be powerful. It is not. Munger borrowed this idea from a 19th century mathematician named Carl Jacobi, whose famous advice for solving hard problems was simply invert, always invert. Turn the problem upside down. Approach it backwards. Here is a real-world version relevant to anyone watching this in 2026. Instead of asking, how do I build wealth, ask, what guarantees I stay broke? The answers come fast and obvious once you flip the question: carrying high-interest credit card debt, never having an emergency fund, spending every dollar the moment it arrives, making financial decisions based on impulse and social comparison instead of a plan. Once you see the list of guaranteed failures, avoiding them becomes the strategy, often more effective than trying to identify the one brilliant move that guarantees success. Munger applied this to investing constantly. He did not spend most of his energy trying to find the single best stock. He spent enormous energy identifying and avoiding the businesses and decisions most likely to destroy capital, bad management, dishonest people, businesses with no durable advantage. Eliminate the disasters first. What remains is a much smaller, much safer pool to choose from. The practical takeaway: next time you are stuck on a big decision, career, money, relationships, flip the question. Ask what would guarantee the worst outcome. Then simply do not do those things. It is astonishing how often this produces clearer thinking than trying to brainstorm the perfect answer directly. Lesson 3 is deceptively simple, and it is one of the most repeated ideas throughout the entire book. Know your circle of competence and do not operate outside of it. Your circle of competence is the specific set of things you genuinely understand well enough to make good decisions about. Munger's point is not that the circle needs to be large. It is that you need to know exactly where the edges are, and refuse to make important decisions once you have stepped outside them. Munger has been blunt about this his entire career. He and Buffett avoided investing in technology companies for decades, not because tech was a bad investment, but because it was outside their circle of competence. They did not understand the businesses well enough to evaluate them with confidence. Rather than guess, they said no. That discipline, saying no to things you do not understand, no matter how exciting they sound, kept them out of an enormous number of disasters that trapped less disciplined investors. Here is the version of this lesson that applies directly to you. A friend mentions a cryptocurrency, a stock tip, a can't-miss real estate deal, a business opportunity that sounds incredible at a dinner party. The question worth asking is not, does this sound exciting? It is, do I actually understand this well enough to know if it is a good idea, or am I just trusting the person telling me about it? The circle of competence idea gives you permission to say, I don't know enough about this without shame. In a culture that rewards confident-sounding opinions on absolutely everything, admitting the boundary of what you actually understand is a genuine competitive advantage, because it protects you from the decisions that wreck most people's finances. Lesson 4 is the part of the book that reads less like finance and more like applied psychology, and it might be the most immediately useful section for anyone managing money in 2026. Munger devotes an entire major speech in the book to what he calls the psychology of human misjudgment, a catalog of roughly 24 specific ways the human brain systematically fools itself. A few of the biggest ones, translated into plain language, incentive-caused bias. People believe what they are financially motivated to believe, often without realizing it. The salesperson believes their product is the best one. Ask yourself before trusting anyone's financial advice, what do they get if I say yes? Social proof, we assume something must be a good idea because a lot of other people are doing it. This is exactly the mechanism behind speculative bubbles, from tulip mania centuries ago to meme stocks and crypto hype cycles today. The crowd being loud is not the same as the crowd being right. Loss aversion, humans feel the pain of losing money roughly twice, as intensely as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. This is why people panic sell investments during a downturn, locking in losses precisely at the moment they should be holding steady or buying more. Munger's argument is not that you can eliminate these biases. You cannot. They are wired into the human brains. His argument is that once you know the specific names and mechanisms of these biases, you can recognize them when they happen, so slow down before making an expensive mistake. The practical takeaway: the next time you feel an urgent pull toward a financial decision, buy this, sell that, invest now before it's too late, pause, and ask which specific bias might be driving that urgency. The final lesson is Munger's most famous piece of investing philosophy, and it applies far beyond investing. Munger frequently compared investing to baseball, but with one enormous advantage. In baseball, if you do not swing at 3 good pitches, you are out. In investing and in life, there is no such penalty. You can watch 1,000 pitches go by and wait for the one that is exactly, perfectly, unmistakably in your zone. Munger's own record backs this up. Despite being one of the most successful investors of the last century, he made a genuinely small number of major investment decisions across his entire career. He was famous for extreme patience, going months or years without making a significant move, then committing decisively and heavily when a rare high-conviction opportunity finally appeared. Here is why this matters for absolutely everyone, not just investors. Modern life constantly pressures you to act, buy now, apply now, decide now, invest now, or miss out forever. Munger's entire philosophy pushes back against that pressure. Most decisions are not actually urgent. Most opportunities that feel urgent are manufactured to feel that way by someone who benefits from your urgency. The people who make consistently good decisions over a lifetime are usually the people who said no far more often than they said yes, and who recognized the rare good opportunity specifically because they had not exhausted their judgment on 100 mediocre ones. The practical takeaway: build the habit of waiting. Not indefinitely, but long enough to ask whether a decision is genuinely good or just urgent feeling. Those are not the same thing, and confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. My personal take is that you should have a game plan for yourself, You don't want to be in the assessment stage forever and waiting for the best deal, like the people who wish they had bought a house 10 years ago. That's a skill to determine a good decision versus the best decision. Poor Charlie's Almanack is not a finance book pretending to be a wisdom book. It is a wisdom book that happens to have made its author one of the most successful investors alive. The 5 lessons that translate directly into 2026 build a latticework of mental models, borrow the best ideas from multiple fields instead of relying on just one. Invert the problem, figure out what guarantees failure, and avoid that, instead of only searching for the one brilliant path to success. Know your circle of competence, and have the discipline to say, I don't understand this well enough without shame. Study your own psychological biases, incentive bias, social proof, loss aversion, so you can catch yourself before an emotional decision becomes an expensive one. And sit on your hands. Most decisions are not actually urgent, and the ability to wait for a genuinely good opportunity is a competitive advantage almost nobody else has the patience for. None of these require a finance degree. None require access to Wall Street. They require the willingness to think a little more carefully than the world around you. If this summary made you want to actually pick up the book, good, because it is worth the read even if it takes you longer than most books. Hit the like button, subscribe for more no-jargon book breakdowns, and go find out what an entire latticework of mental models can do for your own decisions. See you in the next one.